Now, the Palin Update with Kevin Scholla presents Liberty and Legacy. Here's Tamara Colbert.
I was talking to a millennial today. I know that kind of sounds like the punchline of a bad joke, but it's what the millennial said to me that makes the joke on us. I was at the mall doing my business and happened to get engaged with a young man, 20 years old, stopped me because of the shirt I was wearing. My new favorite t-shirt that I bought for President's Day this year says on the front in really big letters, George Washington, Revolution Delivered. It is an awesome shirt. I love it. And I have been wearing it to see what kind of reaction I get when I'm in public. This young man, he was so excited and asked me about my shirt and asked me if I was a Bernie Sanders supporter. What? I know, I said the same thing. So I'm wearing a t-shirt with George Washington's name on it, and this kid thinks I'm a socialist. So here I am scratching my head, but insanely curious as to why he would think that. So I asked him, what the heck? He said, well, George Washington wasn't all that impressive. And I couldn't believe it. Now I was stunned. I said, George Washington, he was our first president, a battlefield general that led the revolution to independence and America being a free nation. But he said, well, most of the founders, just like George Washington, were slaveholders. So because of that, all the good, the sacrifice, the lost fortunes didn't matter for the cause of freedom because Washington owned slaves. He said the real heroes today are Barack Obama and Bernie Sanders because they're thinking about the millennials. And when I asked what policies in particular made him so inspired about these two gentlemen, his comments read like the Communist Manifesto. Well, of course, taxing the rich, free college tuition, free health care, guaranteed home mortgage. Well, what? I did mention to him, though, that none of these things were guaranteed in the Constitution. The only things guaranteed were life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And he told me, well, that's just up for interpretation. I'm not kidding. I was stunned. It was like I was having an out-of-body experience. And then he proceeded to tell me that our nation was really founded as a socialist country anyway, and that Article 1, Section 8 gives the government the power to control the people. And I said, what? Have you actually read the Constitution? Because Article 1, Section 8 says that the Congress shall have the power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excises to pay the debts and provide for the common defense and general welfare of these United States, among other topics like regulating commerce, naturalization, borrowing money, etc., etc. But Bernie Sanders is telling these kids that Article 1, Section 8 gives the federal government the power to dictate to the American people anything it wants under the guise of general welfare, hence the General Welfare Clause. It was outrageous. Oh my gosh. I've been seething about it all afternoon. And then he kept telling me about how excited he was that Bernie Sanders' plan of taxing the rich. Then I asked him if he's heard of the penny plan, for example, about the benefits of that penny plan, giving us an opportunity to pay off the massive and ever-accumulating national debt within 8 years. And then I asked him to imagine, what if we took 3 cents or 5 cents from every dollar? What if we could pay off the national debt in less than 2 years plus have a surplus? Then we wouldn't need to increase taxes, and that would benefit everyone who was paying them. Literally, I thought his head was going to explode because he became like a robot. Does not compute. He had to move on then to free college. And what a benefit that would be, because he was upset that he had to work his way through college. And I chuckled. I said, really? Why should I be obligated to pay for your college? I said, aren't you working now? He's like, yeah, but I can only take a couple classes a month and everything's so expensive. I'm like, welcome to the real world, pal. Holy cow. And he says, oh, well, it will only cost free college tuition for all of us who want to go to college right now would only be $8 billion over 10 years. And then I asked him, well, what is your plan once all of you guys graduate? What about the people that come behind you? And he's like, oh, well, I don't care. I don't have to worry about those people. Which means his attitude is, well, he got his, who cares about that next generation? Wow. We haven't taught our kids very well. We haven't taught them to think about others. Service above self. Really a sad conversation this afternoon, and it's been going in my head over and over again. Of course, I don't blame him. He's 20 years old. He's struggling to make ends meet. Retail is a tough industry. He's a retail store manager. Welcome to the real world. Oh my gosh. Of course, free college. That sounds really good to a young person who hasn't been able to spend his youth and teenage years working in fast food or for a tire store because there are no jobs for our kids. The federal government has thankfully screwed that up, right? So now these millennials who've never had jobs as young kids, they don't know, they don't care, they don't understand hard work. Because the best years of teaching kids that, which is their tweens and teenage years, are gone. They've been sitting around playing video games, getting their parents' credit cards to do whatever they wanted. Wow, what does that tell us? It tells us that for all these years, nothing has changed. Washington doesn't want to do a doggone thing to change this perfect status quo that they've got going on. The millennials today, when they graduate from college, they're stuck with average $28,000 in student loans. Some are so freaked out about their college debt, they're actually freeing the country to escape paying those taxes. Well, I know this firsthand because my mom's cousins actually did this very thing in the 60s, thinking that the government owed them and their tuition for college should have been free. So to this day, my mom's two cousins both still live, one in Australia and one in France. And they have never set foot back in America for fear of being served by the feds a collection notice to get those back college tuition loans paid off. We have a system that has continued to break down, and it's getting worse. But now we're approaching really the fiscal cliff. We are now affecting a third generation of college kids, this millennial generation. Only the saddest thing is this millennial generation, they don't see America as a way out, as an opportunity to be better than what they have right now by hard work, by entrepreneurship, by doing their best, by getting in, by finding a mentor. Nope, they don't see that anything's going to help them. I read recently a young conservative millennial writer said it all. To millennials, parents and the government are one and the same because their function is to pick up the bill. And that is the message we've given to our youth today. They think they're owed something by you and me. Well, why shouldn't they? We don't expect much of them. Anarchy and free stuff is all that matters to them, thus ensuring that chaos reigns. We've got to stop the madness. It's time to get back to the people's business of self-governance, independence, and people taking care of themselves, bringing themselves up by their bootstraps through hard work and entrepreneurship and diligence and commitment and honor and integrity. Washington has let us down for 100 years. They will not change. They will not fix themselves. This is why I'm fighting so hard to educate and promote the Convention of States Project and using Article 5 to bring back common sense to our nation. It really is the only way we are going to fix the way the federal government does business. Washington no longer fears the people, and it's time to bring back the fear. Join me at conventionofstates.com. I want you to join me. Let's take our country back together. I want to hear from you this week. Tweet me at Tamara Colbert, hashtag Mama Grizzly. You know what time it is. Have a great week. Don't forget to vote. Your voice still matters. I'm Tamara Colbert at Mama Grizzly Radio.
Tamara Colbert in Texas. Tune in for more Liberty and Legacy next week. And to learn about Convention of States, head to conventionofstates.com. Now our weekly commentary, Steel Resolve. Here's Sarah Steelman.
Thanks, Kevin. I was saddened to hear the news of Nancy Reagan's passing. She was a graceful woman who was devoted to loving her man, her husband, her president, and her soulmate, Ronald Reagan. And she was proud of it, unlike so many women today who think it is somehow demeaning to support the man you love. But somehow it seems fitting and predictable that she should pass away in this ugly election year. As a participant in the Reagan Revolution, it breaks my heart to say it, but her passing is symbolic of the end of the Reagan era. Sadly, the candidates for president this year no longer even understand the meaning of the term Reaganism. They use the term conservative or constitutional conservative or outsider as a security blanket. They invoke his name or misrepresent his views to shape themselves into some kind of image of Reagan in order to convince voters they are conservative. Nancy was probably sick and tired of listening to them, knowing that none of today's candidates have any understanding of who he was and what he stood for. Go back and read Reagan's speeches. He always articulated what he would do, how he would do it, and why it fit into his view of America. His convictions about America's role in the world were strong enough to stand up to the evil empire. He never put others down or made fun of them. He didn't talk about himself, and he talked in terms of what we can do together as Americans. None of these guys do that. The election is all about them, not about us. So when you hear Trump, Cruz, Kasich, Rubio, and now Romney invoke the name of Reagan, remember this. Remember how Reagan, in his farewell speech, described his shining city upon a hill. But in my mind, it was a tall, proud city built on rocks, stronger than oceans, windswept, God-blessed, and teeming with people of all kinds, living in harmony and peace. A city with free ports that hummed with commerce and creativity. And if there had to be city walls, the walls had doors, and the doors were open to anyone with the will and the heart to get here. That's how I saw it, and still see it. Nancy had seen enough of this world, and she has gone to Ronnie's shining city upon a hill. It's a sad day for America. This is Sarah Steelman for Mama Grizzly Radio.
Tune in again next week for another segment of Steel Resolve right here on the Palin Update. The Palin Update, including Liberty and Legacy and Steel Resolve, is on demand and available for download. So just head to mamagrizzlyradio.com, pick the show you want to hear, and you can listen anywhere, anytime. Well, that'll just about do it for this edition of the Palin Update on Mama Grizzly Radio. Visit mamagrizzlyradio.com for continuing coverage of Governor Palin. Also, like Mama Grizzly Radio on Facebook and follow along on Twitter at Mama Grizz Radio, at Kevin Scholla, at Tamara Colbert, and at Sarah_Steelman. And I'm doing some writing for Breitbart News. Go to Breitbart.com and search Kevin Scholla. I want to thank Sarah Steelman, Tamara Colbert, and everyone here at Mama Grizzly Radio. Thanks to Victoria Price, and thank you for listening today. A special thanks to our sponsor, Narrowgate Security Agency. Visit narrowgate.com. The Palin Update is produced by Lena Anderson, the Andy L. Kramer, and Lori Ann Lewis. Please be sure to join us again next time for another edition of the Palin Update right here on Mama Grizzly Radio. I'm Kevin Scholla. Have a pleasant day.